Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're back at it for another episode of Art Talks Artist Interviews, and I'm really excited for today's. The next artist that we've got is a San Diego native, and he's got some really great landscape pieces that he does. He's really well-known artist here in San Diego, and he's been with Art Walk forever. I just found out how long he's been with the show. Way back when it was an actual walk where you kind of got carted from one venue to another, and everybody had their galleries up. And yeah, it's obviously come a long way since, and Grant's been there for the whole ride. But yeah, coming to us from Florida, I think at his home studio, welcome Grant Pecoff.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, and thanks for everybody who's tuning in. Appreciate it.
Of course, thanks for joining us. And I know we've got a lot to talk about that we haven't even covered yet in our preliminary conversation. But yeah, how's everything been going for you, Grant, since we've been in quarantine? I know things are getting a little more lax now, and probably even more so in Florida. But yeah, tell us about how everything's been going in your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty obviously it's a tumultuous time right now. So I'm I've been just kind of going inside and centering myself and asking questions and trying to be as aware as possible with everything that's happening right now. A lot of change happening. So it's good that we ask questions and we take action. And artistically speaking, I've been actually really productive. I'm here in Florida. I'm actually supposed to be in San Diego right now, but we've been here. Gosh, we've been here since October. Now we were supposed to leave in April, and yeah, so we've been here in October, and we're just about to leave. We're going to be leaving here in about 2 weeks. So I set up a temporary studio at the house that I'm renting, and yeah, I've been painting a lot. I've been painting a new series based on my trip through Italy, mainly around the island of Sardinia, off the west coast, as well as through Cinque Terre and Venice, and some of these other areas, Portofino, and yeah, so really inspired by that, and been painting a lot of water paintings. You can see the one you see the one behind me,
Right.
behind me here. So I've been focusing more on like larger paintings, larger water patterns, and the subtleties of water, as well as the beauty of the light and the way that it hits the surface. So I've been focusing a lot on that. I've been doing a couple commissions as well, and yeah, surprisingly productive. As a painter, anyways, I spent a lot of time kind of in imposed isolation,
Right.
anyways. So in some ways, it's not a very far stretch from what I normally do, but even more so, it's been good as far as the creativity um, goes. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
and
thanks for asking.
if I can give you a quick plug, um, it's fun following along um, uh, with your newsletters and like your email updates because like you mentioned, you talk about your travels and all these places that you go to that inspire your artwork, and it's always fun to see what comes after that. You're really good at keeping everybody up to date and keeping everybody engaged. So we appreciate that. So if you're not already on Grant's email list, get on there. It's definitely worth it, and there's plenty of good stuff on there. Even some deals coming our way too.
Yeah, right. That's cool. Well, thanks for that. And like the newsletters are, since I travel quite a bit, it's a great way for me to not just through the paintings, but also through words and photographs. It's a great way for me to share my experience through these travels, in these various ways, and it's a good way for me to connect as well, right? I think we all need that connection, especially right now. So it's good, and then I get to hear what other people's experiences are as well, because some people write me back after I send out the newsletters, talking about specific locations and how they felt in these various locations, and yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, totally. you touched on the fact that you've been focusing a lot on water paintings, and they're really remarkable. Like I said, and what I read in your bio, um, they're really electric and vibrant, and they just emanate a lot of feeling. And you mentioned, or you sent over one of your inspo photos that I kind of want to bring up. But yeah, tell us about how you translate what you're seeing in real life to the canvas.
Yeah. So yeah. So the one that you have up there now. So that's a photo, right? So that's a photo that I took of just the patterns of water. This was actually in a harbor it's an island called Hvar. Hvar. It's Hvar in Croatia, and this was a boat reflection of a boat, and I thought it just created these amazing patterns that kind of morphed into one another, right? Almost like someone spilled paint in the water.
Right.
And I mean, it looks amazing like that as a photograph, but then you're there in real life, right? And it's just moving. Everything's just constantly moving, and it's a trip, right? I mean, it almost feels like a dream. It's like an animated dream, but it's real life. So I see like those moments, and specifically in this case with water, I'm mesmerized. I'm awed. It's like, how can this be real? And I'll turn
Right.
like to my wife or whoever's next to me, and like, do you see this? Look at that.
Yeah.
And like for my wife, I've pointed this out many, many times, and she's like, yeah, 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 I see it. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, no, no,
Am I
really, look.
am I tripping out or
Yeah, I mean, it's like an LSD trip, right? I mean, it really is. And yeah, so for me, it's like I gotta paint that. I gotta share that. I got to that feeling that it creates in me. Maybe I can somehow recreate that on canvas, and other people can feel that. And that's not just with the water paintings. That's really with all my work. I try to recreate that beauty that's out there, like those moments when you just say thank you for being alive, really. Where everything just feels alive, the way the sun like hits a particular leaf, or there's a shadow against the building, maybe from the clouds or whatever it is. It's quite incredible. So that's really like a big calling for me, is to bring more awareness to the world. That's the simplistic beauty that's all around us, all the time. It's just a matter of whether we're aware of that or not. And I know for me, I have a tendency to get in my head a lot. Um,
Right.
so if I can stop, for a second and appreciate something so simple, you know, um, that's right in front of me, outside my door, even the way the light hits something, it clears my head, and it reminds me of really what's kind of important, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I see that we've got some comments already from people. Keep them coming, and we'll answer any questions that anybody might have towards the end of the interview. Um, but yeah, just to touch more on kind of your style and inspiration. We talked about this a little earlier, and we'll show some of your pieces here in just a sec. But you've got these different series. You have your mountain series, your lake series, and ocean series, among plenty other ones. But they have different styles. I've noticed. Some of them have thicker brush strokes. Some of them look like it's a photo that's like overexposed almost. So I'm curious, and I'm sure the audience is curious. How do you choose what style that you're going to use for any particular piece?
Yeah, well, really, it's just what is it that I want to convey? Like, what do I want the piece to convey? And like stylistically, I think I think I approach my work stylistically, usually from the same kind of style point. There is lately I've been working on trying to loosen my paintings up more. So there's a piece in this slideshow that kind of shows a little bit more of a looser stroke. Um, so a lot of my work is very fluid, organic, very kind of soft and wavy and distorted, vibrant, colorful. Um, so with this other series that I've been working on, is it this one that's coming up? Um, yeah, this one. You can see the strokes in the sky are more like angular, kind of geometric, flatter, and then also the same thing with the brushstrokes in like the cliff line. And the point of that was to loosen up and to approach describing a scene or representing a scene in a different way, but still having some of the same qualities that my normal work has. So like for me, this is kind of a blend, right? I'm able to loosen up and not be so constrained by my style, but at the same time have some elements of my style in there, as far as the organic, wavy kind of lines. And you can see that in the water a little bit, and then I start going into more with these choppier brush strokes, which I like, because as an artist, we don't want to remain stagnant, right? We want to continue to grow and continue to evolve and continue to push ourselves. And this also, it gets boring doing the same thing over and over and over again. And so, that's part of it is, how can I push myself and how can I describe this scene in a different way that can convey this feeling that I'm trying to convey. And so it's good to get out of your own way, get out of my own way, which is harder. It's easier said than done, right? Because how do you develop, for example, like a new style? How do you?
Right.
And that's all about like really the process and exploring it and giving yourself a break when it doesn't come out the first 5,000 times the way you want it to.
Right.
But that's also the challenge and the fun, because when you do hit that mark where it's like, oh yeah, this really feels good, this is what I'm going for, even though I didn't know I was going for it. It's such a great feeling.
And to that effect, I know when we were talking earlier, you said that you went to school for completely different media, and your style has evolved from the subject matter that you're using, from the way you're using your brush strokes. Obviously, now you're focused on mostly oil and canvas, but can you tell us a little bit about what kind of art you first started creating and how it's evolved over time?
Yeah. So I went up to school in San Francisco for illustration. So I majored in illustration. And the first couple of weeks I was there, you take these foundation courses, and one of the foundation courses was sculpture. Never sculpted anything in my life, and it was like Sculpture 1, the class was called. And I was sculpting it's a clay head of a Buddha that I made up. And God, I had so much fun with it. I had so much fun working with my hands and using the medium of clay and learning something I never knew before. And actually, I changed my major to sculpture that week. And I started doing that. Started working in plaster and steel and making a lot of molds. Then some time went by, and I eventually changed back to painting. And when I started really painting more seriously to make a career out of it, I was painting wildlife. And so I'd go to the zoo. I was back in San Diego at this point, and I'd go to the local zoo, San Diego, world famous San Diego Zoo, which is an amazing zoo. You guys might have heard of it. It's world famous. This little zoo. So I was living in University Heights at the time. I'd ride my bike over there, and I'd sketch and do some little like color studies and whatnot. And I ended up selling my work, selling postcards and posters to zoos across the country. So like the Birmingham Zoo, LA Zoo, St. Louis Zoo, even went as far as over to Sydney in Australia to the Taronga Zoo over there. And actually the first couple art walks I did, I participated in when we were exhibiting in those businesses along India Street. I was selling wildlife. And it was a whole new, it was a different market back then. It was a different kind of industry back then, right? Like G-clay prints just came out, like digital prints. I remember my first digital print ever was of a giraffe. And I know, Diane, you are listening to this. Yeah. And I worked with Diane actually at a frame shop I was working at the time when I was starting my career, so she knows all about this. But yeah, so I printed this giraffe up and started making prints and started learning more about the business side of art, and not only selling originals but prints, and that eventually changed my style. Eventually changed to landscapes after an epiphany I had in a class I was taking um, over at Palomar College. This was a couple of years after I started painting the wildlife. And then ever since then, I've been painting landscapes in the style that I paint now.
Yeah, and I really like what you said. I like how your style has evolved while staying true to your originality. And um, I'm going to give you a little surprise because we've got something here in the office, and I like to pull out a prop for these interviews every
Uh-oh.
once in a while.
Oh no.
I hope you don't hate me
Oh
for this.
boy.
I love these. This is 2001
Oh,
Grant Pecoff right here.
oh my God. Yeah, where'd you get that? That's
There
crazy.
it was hanging up, and I think on the Little Italy site, because obviously we share an office with Little Italy Association, and yeah, they had it,
Oh my
and then they
gosh.
brought it down to paint their walls, and then they brought it over, and they're like, "Hey, check this out. This isn't this Grant?" And I'm like, "Yes,
That's
sure is."
awesome. That's
And then
awesome.
looking at
Yeah. Two,
the certificate on the
oh
back
yeah.
is 2001,
Yeah, that's legit right there.
right there. Ain't no fake.
Ain't no fake. Oh man, yeah, that was 2001. That was my first trip to Europe. You know, I spent 3 months over in Europe. I backpacked across. I brought my easel, and funny enough, I had the trip sponsored by businesses in San Diego, um, and it really from that trip it just everything took off after I came back. I had my first solo show at the 101 Artist Colony when it was there in Encinitas. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a kind of a community gallery, co-op gallery. Um, amazing place. Gave so many artists the opportunity to show and to meet collectors. And yeah, yeah, that brings back some memories.
Absolutely. And I guess to elaborate on that point, you said, it's a great way to meet collectors at shows like that, those co-op shows. Um, I've been asking this question repeatedly during these interviews. Why do you think that it's important for people to invest in original artwork?
To invest in original artwork or just artwork? Original specifically?
I would say original. Let's say original artwork.
All right, yeah. Gosh, well, original artwork, I mean, there's nothing like an original, right? I mean, so much energy, so much time um, from the artist has gone into that piece, hours standing in front of that painting, that easel, every brushstroke, right? Every valley and crest of the paint that's on the canvas. Energy went into that, thoughts went into that, feelings went into that. So as far as investing in that, that's what collectors aren't just investing in uh, this two-dimensional object, right? Or
Right.
this painting, an object. They're investing in the time and the energy that artwork, the experience that artist put in to that painting. And I think, I think you can definitely tell when you're standing in front of original. Like you go to a museum, right? And you're standing in front of a Van Gogh or one of the master's works or whatever it is, any artist's work, but I mean, if you can relate to it at a museum, and it's like, I remember the first time I stood in front of a Van Gogh painting for real, is at the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, and I was blown away, I mean, I must have been there for like hours, just
Yeah.
looking at every little crevice and nuance of paint, and um, yeah, so I mean, so there's that, the actual feeling of the artist's time and energy and work in there, but also from a standpoint of an investment in an asset, you're investing in the artist, and that work of art is only going up in value as well. I know works of mine that sold 20 years ago are now worth, I don't know, quadruple or however much, but exponentially.
Right.
So from an investment standpoint, it makes sense financially, and also a lot of collectors pass them down. It's something that can't really, it's not like you're going out and buying something at a store, right? That's really expensive or a luxury good. I mean, this is something that has meaning to the collector, has meaning to the artist, and then has meaning in the family. And I know for a lot of my collectors, the paintings will be handed down to their kids, when they go. And so it stays in the family, and then it's all those memories that are associated with their family and those times, or growing up with it, or whatever it is. So it's so much more than just an object, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, like, everybody has a conversation with art, right? Like, there's certain pieces that you can just walk on by, and there's other pieces where you're just like, oh my God, I can't stop looking at it. I can't stop feeling something when I'm standing in front of it, and that's incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and to speak on, the investing in original artwork because of the energy it brings. It's like, you're bringing that energy into your home, you're bringing that energy into your workplace, and just with sunset surf that we're looking at right here, it feels like you're in the water. And what's more calming than just waiting for the next swell at a sunset surf? So I love that part of it, and especially for, you're inspired by your travels so much. It's really fun, like I said, kind of keeping up with what you're doing, because if you get that artwork and it's like you're living vicariously through your eyes, and it's almost experiencing that same feeling that you had when you first created that piece. So I think, in my opinion, that's the thing that I most appreciate about artwork. And yeah, your stuff really does it for me.
That's cool. Well, yeah, thank you for that. And I mean, that's what I hope. I hope people can, they'll look at like sunset surf there and be reminded of those moments in the water, or at the beach or at sunset, and the way the light glistens, and I don't know, maybe be relaxed or be inspired in some way, or maybe never looked at water quite like that. Like, I get that a lot from people, is that they, well, maybe not a lot, but some people start to see water in a different way, and I think that's what's great about art, is that they can share these different perspectives. And like with this piece, I really tried to put that perspective in the painting, where it feels like you're in the water, that you feel like you're in the water, because I want you to feel what it's like being there.
Right,
Maybe
and everybody's got
get in there.
everybody's got their own interpretation of what that feeling is that you're portraying in your artwork. And
Yeah.
that's always the fun part about it. But yeah, and one of the things we were talking about before, I like to delve a little bit into like the nitty gritty of being an artist, or kind of like the background stuff that people don't really see. And you kind of mentioned the process. We haven't talked about this yet, but there's pretty much every artist that's doing like, 2-dimensional medium of fine art. They're all having to, scan their images to a workable file that they can. So tell us a little bit about that process of, proofing these pieces and everything.
Yeah. So, like, I'll paint the original, like this one behind me, right? That's an original. And I will take it to my printer to scan it, do a very high resolution scan of the original oil. And it can take them several hours to actually do the scan, depending on how big the file size is, and their process. And once it goes into the computer, they'll try to color match it to the original as close as possible. And then they go ahead and send me the proofs. Since I'm usually somewhere, well, my scanner, my printer's in LA, so I'm really never that much in LA. So they'll send me proofs, right? I'm not saying anything bad about LA. I'm just LA's a great place. I love LA.
Yeah.
So they'll send me proofs, and the proofs, will kind of look like this. And I'll get a few of them. I'll get 3 different ones with different colors. Like, sometimes, all right, like here's another one, and then I'll have all the information like down here. This is like the file size. Let's see if I can draw my finger. Like the file size and all their technical jargon down there. And I will say, okay, well, maybe we'll have to pump up the reds here a little bit, like that was lost in the scan, or, we'll desaturate, take down these aquas in the water down here. And so we'll go through a few different rounds. There's a new one. You could probably see the originals over. See if I can throw my finger over there.
Yeah.
Anyways,
We're backwards.
right, we're backwards. We're reflective here. So we'll go through a few rounds depending on how close they get it, and once I approve it, they'll send me the final proof, and once it's approved, I write on the back, okay.
Yeah.
With my signature, like that's approved. Really, really technical stuff, right? Really complicated.
Yeah.
And then so I'll send that to them, and then from there we can go to print, and then we'll go to print, and we'll print on large canvas. Like for a painting like this behind me, which is 72 by 44 inches, I can print almost double that size,
Wow.
depending on the limitation of the actual printer. I think our printer is limited to like 60 by, well, really indefinite because it's on a canvas roll. But
Right.
I think 60 inches is the one limitation we have on one side. So I can print them, like that on canvas, or like this is on paper. It's matted on paper, right? And so these different substrates or different surfaces that we can print on. Like here's one that's on metal, right? So this is on metal here. So that's kind of the process there.
I think that just goes to show, this, like you said, there's nothing like owning an original, but I think just showing the painstaking work you're putting into color match and everything else, and make sure that the lighting is right and everything is as close as it can possibly be to the original. That just puts more value in the prints that you're making. You're not just taking a photo of your piece and printing it out. It's there's a lot of work that goes into that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work and a lot of financial investment too. It's expensive to scan and go through the proofing process, and the time as well that it takes, for sure. But I mean, it's worth it. And like for me, because you mentioned original, I'll actually go into, I offer what I call artist enhanced limited editions, and that's where I go over the top of the canvas print with paint. And so I'll give it more texture, more vibrancy. I'm using actual like real acrylic paint, and that gives the collector the ability to collect. Like if the original sold, this is like the next best thing. It's like an original because I'm using actual my real brushstrokes and actual real texture and real paint, and they're set in a low edition. So in a way, it's a way of getting an original if the original's been sold, or maybe you don't have the budget for an original. So that's an alternative too.
Well, people like me appreciate all the work and time and investment that you put into your prints, because for us, those of us that can't afford an original, we really appreciate it. We can get a print.
Yeah, absolutely.
Real quick, I know that you work with your wife Lainey on other projects as well, and you showed me some of the pieces that you guys kind of collaborate on. Can you fill us in on that?
Yeah, so my wife Lainey has written 3 books. One's called Live Your Dream. Ta-da! Right? And so this is a story, I mean, it's for everyone, but kids really seem to love them. It has some, let me try to find a page here. It has some whimsical lyrical prose. You can see that, right? So these are messages about taking care of one another, about looking within to find the true treasure, taking care of the planet, these kinds of things, in Live Your Dream here. And actually at the back they have, they have these are some simple steps, since the book's called Live Your Dream, to things to get you started kind of dreaming or manifesting your world, right? I mean, it's up to us how we want to manifest and change our world, and it all starts with that initial intention. And then the first book was Open Your Heart, and same kind of format, lyrical prose, but this is about places that people live in the world. Like this one is Amsterdam, for example. So open your heart. And then the third book that we have is I Thought, A Story of Awakening. Slightly different artwork. I did this all in the program Illustrator on computer. So
oh, cool.
I'm familiar with vector files. It's all vector, and I'm not very proficient in the program, so it's pretty basic. But I think it gets the point across really well. This is all about noticing our thoughts, and through this process of waking up to that we're actually thinking in the moment, we begin to find the stillness within us that's always already there. So this is great. I grew up with these books called Mr. Men books. They're British books when I was a kid, so it's very similar format to that, to those books, and something simple that kids can be attracted to as well as adults, because it's a pretty complex subject.
Mm-hmm.
But I think illustrated or told in such a simple way. My wife, we were living in the Bahamas at the time. My wife wrote it, and I went out for a swim, and an hour later when I came back, it was written.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's great. It's like a 5 minute version of The Power of Now, in a way.
Right.
Where it's just like I find myself when I'm at art festivals or like Art Walk San Diego, Mission Federal Art Walk, I'll share it with people that come up to the booth, and they'll be reading it, and they're reading it to themselves, but I'm kind of looking over their shoulders, reading it at the same time.
Right.
And it's like that instant reminder of like just bringing me back down to like, here I am, I'm right here. And it's amazing when art or books can do that.
Yeah, it's great that you can take a really convoluted or complicated subject and simplify it for kids or adults to really intake and just have a completely different approach to it. And you and Lainey make a great team, and it's always a pleasure having you guys at Art Walk, because like I said, you guys are just such a bright light shining at the always have a really nice booth, nice end cap, and you guys are so positive, and like I've said before, when we're running around trying to put out fires and whatnot, it's nice to say, hey Grant, how's it going? And hey Jacob, and just have a quick little back and forth to bring me back up and raise my spirits.
That's awesome, man. Thank
and
you. Same here.
Yeah. Real quick, like I said before, you've been with Art Walk forever, so you've seen all these crazy changes. Can you talk a little bit about your early Art Walk days and how the events changed from when you first started?
Oh gosh, yeah. So first time I did an Art Walk must have been in like the year 2000, right? Or 1999, somewhere around there. And we used to hang artwork in businesses along India Street, like I mentioned. And there'd be shuttle buses, and because India Street's pretty long, right? And it actually went all the way downtown, I believe.
Yeah.
I think like off of Market. Anyway, so there'd be shuttle buses that would take patrons to these various stops, and we'd go in as artists, we'd hang on the walls of businesses. But I remember there was like this one business that we hung in. It was on the corner of, I think it's either where the pizza is right now in Little Italy, or like a block down. And it was so crowded in there. It was like 10 by 20, maybe 10 by 20 room. And we had like, I don't know, 10 or 15 artists that were hanging in the room. And all the public came in, and there's no air conditioning, right? As well as like a 1-story building. And it was so sweaty. It was so sweaty, so like dank. And it was awesome, because I was like, oh my God, there's so many people here to look at art. It was amazing, because in the very beginning, people would just kind of trickle through the businesses, right? And so patrons would trickle through the businesses because it was still getting known. And as the years progressed, more and more people would come through the businesses. And then I remember being invited to a roundtable it was with a different organizer at the time, and we were talking about how we could change and evolve Art Walk, and eventually it was decided upon to bring the festival outdoors, and that completely transformed the experience, right? I mean, you're looking at thousands of more people, and it really brought everybody out, and gave us so much more exposure. And like for me, it helped me to connect with people, but also like I look forward to it every year, because the amount of people that I meet, the amount of work that I get to share with people, new people and old people, and like I get to reconnect with people I haven't seen in a year, or a few years. And like from a business standpoint, it's great because I have, collectors coming back throughout the year saying, "Oh, I saw you at, Little Italy Art Walk, or Mission Federal Art Walk." Sorry, Mission Federal Art Walk. And yeah, it's just a lovely place to be, and you have all these wonderful like performing arts and dance and kids learning how to do art like right there and then. So it's a wonderful sensory experience, multimedia experience, really. So like where it is now, I'm just so happy for and so grateful for that I get to be a part of that, and you guys haven't kicked me out yet.
I don't think you'll be fired from Art Walk anytime soon.
I hope not.
Yeah, Sandy, I know that before we used to kind of have like a different tagline for each event. And maybe it was 2 years ago, our directors decided to just have one tagline for Art Walk that we could, that kind of conveyed our message for every single event that we try to do. And it's connecting creative communities. And you kind of spoke on the fact that there's that community atmosphere among artists and patrons and collectors. So that's what we love most about it, is bringing all these different people together to celebrate creativity. And you're the shining example of what we try to, have as an experience as Art Walk. But yeah, real quick, I'm just going to go through some of these comments because we've got a good amount of people watching along here. Let's see. Diane Baumeister says, "I'm excited." Trish Faden says, "Tough life over there in Florida." Dancing.
Hey, you should see my dog. Yeah. My dog has a tough life. I tell you, I cook for it, I walk it, I play with it. Come on.
We were just talking about the water therapy that your dog's going through.
Yeah. She loves the pool.
Jocelyn Sperduto says, "Greetings from Buffalo, New York." And she's talking about your La Jolla Cove painting. Looks just like it. Diane also says, like I said, "I like how your style has evolved while staying true to your originality." Lungala following along as well from Nzambala Artworks. Amazing work.
Thank you.
And Terry Rippey kind of going off of what we were talking about earlier. People buy art because of how it makes them feel.
Yeah.
Definitely true. I think this is probably a comment from Kurt Brooker, our director. He says, "Always love your water and nautical pieces. The goatee is also good." And I know why he's saying that. Well, I know why he's saying that. It's because Kurt's been growing out his goatee for the past few months, and
really?
Yeah, it's getting pretty long, and we're starting to see some of his grays in there too. Sorry to out you, Kurt, but
it's wisdom. It's wisdom,
right?
Kurt.
Exactly.
So I keep telling myself.
It's a good look. Throw a little salt in that pepper.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
And then Jocelyn Sperduto would like to know where she can get those books. So yeah, we'll go ahead and post a link to that after the interview on this post. But yeah, and then Terry Rippey says, "Always fun to stop and say hi at Art Walk." You remember?
Hi, Terry. Thanks for coming by. Woo! 2005. Oh my God. you gotta come back. 2021.
Totally. Or even November 2020, November 7th, 8th is when we were scheduled to.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. That's right. Yes. Super stoked for that. Super stoked.
First fall artwork, I'm sure, in quite a long time.
Ever.
Yeah, before we take off here, Grant, I want to give you the chance to let our audience know what's the best avenue for them to get a hold of you to either purchase one of your originals or a print or book, or get a hold of you for a commission.
Yeah, thank you. You just go to pecoff.com. It's pecoff.com. You can see it there at the bottom, kind of trailing through. You can go there, browse through the different collections that have my works from Europe and Alaska, Hawaii, Bahamas, Caribbean, just kind of all over. Also, you'll see there's a collection of books, so that's where you actually go, like Terry to. Because Terry, they're asking, Jocelyn to get the books. You can go there. But you can't see the individual pages of the books, but if you want, I should actually put a couple samples up there on the site. So if you do want to see some pages, just go ahead and email me. You can contact us at gallery, GALLERY @pecoff.com. But yeah, that's where you go.
Cool. And I'll post that as well, that email address, in the comments after we're done here. But yeah, Grant, thanks so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure talking with you, and we really appreciate you sharing with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Jacob, man. I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity just to connect with everybody. And for all you guys who are watching, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you at the next event. And in the meantime, keep creating and giving love to one another.
Yep, you heard it here. All right, Grant. Well, thanks again, and can't wait to have you back in San Diego.
Ooh, all right, it's only a few more weeks.
Right?
Yeah.
Get back to that good surf.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it for sure.
All right, Grant. Well, we'll see you next time. We hope to see you at the next Art Walk event.
All right. All right. Yep, Liberty Station. I'll see you there.
All right. Take care.
All right, brother. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. For those of you who might be joining us for the first time, we're doing these interviews every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. And we've got a lot of really good interviews we've done already that you can check out on our videos page of the Art Walk San Diego page. And we've been saying this every time, and I'm going to keep saying it. We want to support our artists as much as possible in a time where events are, questionable and have been either delayed or canceled. Thankfully, we've still got Liberty Station on the books for early August. But in the meantime, you can see all of our participating artists under the artists section of artwalksandiego.com or missionfedartwalk.com. From there, you can search our database by medium, subject, or artist name if you'd like to see samples of their work and see their website and see their contact information. That way you can purchase from them directly and contact them for commissions. But yeah, we'll be back on Thursday at 2 p.m. with another artist. So please tune in. We'll be posting on Wednesday, and you can click that little star on the post to get a reminder of when we're going to be on. That way we show up in your feed right when we start. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Take care.